Hey guys, it is Zelda 2 here, and I just wanted to kind of go over the rest of the hotkeys for Infernal. A lot of this is going to be describing the ability and talking about it. I don't want to show all of these units because there's so many awesome changes, but I do want to tell you how to kind of like what things are, what you can expect off them, and give you a reference of how it would, something else that it might feel like, right? So again, with build, I always go B. And we're going to make sure we do flame on and just reassign that with a V to everything. The reason we're doing that is there's a bunch of hotkey changes that, if you're in campaign or, some of the co-op stuff, even though that's not fully fleshed out, you want to make sure you have everything just across the board if you can. In the case of, like, as an example, hold position and move command are not normally on H and Z. I moved them there, that's where my preference is, and I did that with the assign all. That now works, right? So the Brute had a huge change, it looks amazing right now. The Infernal Fury is an auto cast, and it's fine. Some people thought it was a charge type ability. There's a little bit of a charge with it, but it plays very differently, and I'll leave you guys to see that and experience it. It is really, really cool though. And it makes the Brute like pretty badass later, and they look like awesome in the game. We've got the Fiend, same thing, just regular stuff. Gaunt, the Gaunt got a big upgrade. Feels a little iffy animation wise on the micro, but that can all be changed. They look really cool. Hopefully they'll kind of patch that up and make them feel a little bit smoother to micro. But the Gaunt is kind of your, I don't want to call it the Marine because it's not very good that way. It's just like damage isn't that high, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what kind of role it plays. They are cool looking. They have had a ton of major work, so we'll see what people think of that. Phantom, same thing. The Hexen you don't actually start with anymore. The Skull is an autocast ability, so you can just go ahead and put that on Q, which is where I like to put a lot of that stuff. Forsaken Trap is just like basically a Venom trap, so that's totally fine on X, but we're just going to make sure we reassign that. Same with the Hex Field. I'm going to throw that on C. And then you've got your Shadow Weave, which is your recall type ability. Hexen's not a unit I'm super familiar with because I wasn't playing a ton when they were, giving you at the start of the game. And yeah, just kind of like didn't understand them, right? But they're, yeah. All I know is the Q's an autocast, the trap is really, really good, and if you do the necrotic hex field, you curse everything, and it's, if your opponent's like a Vanguard and they're not using their medtechs to counter that out with some of the abilities, the medtechs have to counter that. There's a ton of combos and crazy stuff you can do, so as much as I just knock the unit, it can be really, really good with other stuff around it. The Magmadon, it's very similar to Warcraft 3 unit. Kodo, basically. The difference is it doesn't consume, like, eat another unit, but the Trample is incredibly powerful. It's one of the strongest AoE abilities in the game. It can break trees. It's really, really fun. You can autocast it, and I'm going to move it to Q because I don't think you should autocast that ability. I think it's much better if you're not doing that. If you have, 4 or 5 of them, you want 1 or 2 to cast it and like really go off. You don't need all 5, right? You need to keep like a constant supply of that ability coming up on cooldown, because when it's not on cooldown, the unit's nowhere near as effective, right? But the Trample is amazing, especially once you start getting into the upgrades, right? Hellborn doesn't look like it does much, but it is very important in terms of your overall army composition right now. It does a ton of damage against heavy stuff. It's got kind of a long range attack, and it's very good at killing buildings, that kind of stuff. So, like, it has a bonus versus buildings specifically. So, don't be afraid to sneak a few Hellborn in, especially if you're talking about a mirror matchup, right? Where Shroud Stones are like a much bigger factor. Now the Weaver, Weaver was a part of the coolest combo I saw, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, the rework's awesome. That's really cool, and that's just because of Lash. Lash is like the Scorpion move where there's a harpoon coming out. They're they're cool. Like, they're definitely interesting and not something you see all the time, and they actually work really well with a lot of the new stuff. So don't sleep on Weavers. You know, go play with them. See how they do. See if they're for you. See how much fun they are. All that kind of stuff, right? In the case of the Harbinger, it's a really weird. And it's not weird, but it has to land to pick units up, and then it has to take off, right? So I'm not going to change anything with them right now because it's just, they're good, but like there's a better option, and I'm going to get to it, okay? If you want to change that, go ahead. For me, I'm like, Shadow Flyer is sort of like a Scourge, well, a lot like a Scourge, but it has a couple of different abilities in terms of, if you get Dive Bomb's a research ability. Blood Burst is just kind of the standard, I don't want to say standard, but that's normally how Scourge work, right? They fly into something that blows up. These look way cooler. They're much smarter. They don't all kill themselves at the same time. So really cool. The Dive Bomb ability is a research. Once you get it, they're really cool at that point. They can do a little bit of micro. They can do some pretty devastating things, and they're one of the only kind of splash area, like anti-air units that I've seen. So definitely going to be pretty powerful coming up. But what we're going to do is we're going to change Dive Bomb, and I'm going to put that over on Q. And Blood Burst, because it's an autocaster, I'm just going to throw it over on F. Not as a fail, but the ability I want to be casting is Q. The ability I want the units to be casting, kind of smartly, is going to be Blood Burst, right? We get to the Spriggan. Looks really boring. Got nerfed. You get two of them at the same time, and there's probably the most fun micro unit I've seen in terms of Stormgate and some of the changes they made. Micro with Spriggans feels incredible. Like, I would highly encourage you to just go, like, make a bunch of them, fly around the map, kill whatever. They're not quite Mutalisky, but they're not very similar. They're like, you can make them do whatever you need them to do. They're really, really good at it now. Whereas before, not so much, right? Now, I will actually, try to get a quick demonstration of that. We'll jump in, talk about a couple other things within the game. But Spriggans they're awesome now. Blade Dragon is, the Blade Dragon, one of the best. It's cool, man. What I'm going to do with Blighted Feast is just move that over to Consume. Right, so I've got Blighted Breath on Q for me, typical like main spell ability, and then Blighted Breath, like I've got a bunch of stuff that consumes. I want Blighted Breath on C because again, the units don't overlap. You tab through them, right? We're not going to worry too much about the skull. Actually, yeah, we are. We're going to throw the Client Sacrifice on Q, just because that's the way to go. Okay, finally we're on to the shrines, and it's fine. We have our upgrades, our imps, whatever. Don't need to do too much with any of the building type stuff. Just make sure everything's kind of there and there's nothing weird, right? The quick macro will take care of most of this stuff. So the shroud stone, this part, the warp into ratstone. I'm just gonna quickly pop that over to. I use D for upgrade for most stuff, and there's a lot of things to upgrade like that. If you look at just jump over the shrines. See, shrines are kind of defaulted to that, and that's how I am used to it, right? And we don't need to worry too much about any of this. Again, upgrade stuff. Just making sure. Alright, perfect. Got everything set up exactly the way we want. I'm just going to hit accept. Back. We're going to go jump into a super fast custom game. I'm going to show you a little bit of the Spriggan, as well as some of the macro mechanic stuff that's caught up. And yeah. Should be pretty interesting. Infernal has oh man, the stuff is so cool. Like people are going to, I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting because when I was playing around with the abilities and trying to kind of figure out okay, the hotkeys are working really well in this situation, and they're so much better now. This is the ability that I should have with this on, all that kind of stuff, right? When I was doing all that, and just for the record, I have no idea really how to play the race, so don't judge what I do build-wise too much. Doesn't really matter. Just gonna set our camera hotkeys like we always do. Get in there and get our first imp on the way, and we get our farm. We should build a shrine. But yeah, anyway, what ended up happening is I was like, oh man, these units feel kind of slow compared to like a lot of the other stuff. I was a little bit worried about how they were, how it was going to go overall, and like, man, like the Vanguard stuff is like, it's snappy, like it's really quick, it feels good. There's a lot of they did a lot of really good things, right? So, are we going to just end up in another situation where one race is like, okay, yeah, we got all the micro stuff, and gets really excited, and everybody else is like, oh man, this is like not the most fun thing ever, right? Or are we going to be in a situation where it's fair, right, and everybody's really enjoying themselves, having a good time with their units? And what ended up happening is I kind of built a bit of everything, and it was really, I was like, okay, like, what's this do, like, what are we doing here? But I had everything kind of clumped up, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, they look cool, like, they look amazing, but like, I wasn't that impressed. And then I, took a fight against, again, just DI, because that's all we can do here, right? And it was like, oh, now everything makes sense. And what had happened is, at first I was like, yeah, whatever, right? Like, who cares? Sorry, I don't have my top bar set up. I was like, yeah, whatever, who cares? Like, not a big deal. The way the fight happened is I had a couple of Weavers just pull like the most expensive big, scary units in. It was super crazy. They pulled them in. The brutes stunned like the stuff that was trying to come in to fight my army, and then the Magmadons just stomped and like just killed everything. And the rest of the damage that was coming out from my army was just so high. It was incredible, right? I was like, oh, when you just have a moment where you're like, okay, that makes sense. Like, sorry about the cough there. I was just like, oh, okay, like this is just like, wow. It was a wow moment. Like, we're just like, okay, that was really cool. And it wasn't just because it was a Weaver pulling something in or whatever. Like, it genuinely was like, oh, okay. That's why like everything feels a little slow, a little clunky, a little, could be, I don't want to say better, but like, it wasn't exactly, everything wasn't super smooth or whatever, right? Like, it was just, and then in that one moment, it was like, everything thematically made sense, just all the way the game was played out, like, it was just like, it was a perfect aha type moment. The other one that I had was the Spriggan, which is why I'm showing this to you. Again, we're not really trying to do anything special here, just, using camera hotkeys, moving around. You see me sometimes click on, one of these shrines. Part of that is I might want to redirect that one shrine instead of, if I hit 5 or 4 or whatever, it really doesn't matter. So as I'm in my macro part, all my shrines are going to rally to, like, that one, right? But, like, if my shrine's really far away, like, I probably don't want it to do that. So that's why you see me click shrines from time to time, or command centers, or whatever, right? Honestly, like, I haven't taken RTS games very seriously in, what was it, 5,100 days or so it's been a while, right? And I'm, just having fun with some of the Stormgate stuff. That's why we're doing this, right? There's something to be said for, like, when something just jumps in fun and it's relatively easy to use, and yeah. One thing I would like to point out also, anybody that's like looking, the maps are just old maps. Like, I have no idea what's going to be in the update that way. Like, the only reason I'm doing any of this is just so that you guys have a bunch of, okay, like, this is how this works, or like, okay, now that makes more sense, and I didn't quite understand it before. When you're coming into the game and playing it for the first time, because my first experience, there wasn't much out there. It was really, there's nothing, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be that way. There's people that are working hard on content and their creation, all that kind of stuff, right? But like, ultimately, there just wasn't a lot of stuff that was from somebody who's like, hey, like, I played these games, or that could translate other people's hotkeys, right? Because again, like, I'm showing you how I go about making my hotkeys. I'm not saying my hotkeys are the best. I just want you to be able to find something that's comfortable and works for you. And again, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure you have basically everything that you're gonna need to get things set up the way you want, and start with a very familiar setup, right? There's nothing worse than coming into a game and just like, okay, like, I get it, like, it looks cool, but I can't play because it doesn't control properly for me. Right? Like, that's just, I don't know. You know, not the greatest. Like, at least for me, like, StarCraft 2 kind of ruined me control-wise, and before that, all the Blizzard RTS games, but, you know, always been a big RTS fan. And, sorry, we're just waiting on one thing and we'll be okay. No, we're not going to make that, by the way. But we're just waiting on our Shadow Clef, which is over here. It does take quite a long amount of time to build. And if you didn't know, with the changes for Inferno specifically, like, it's much more important now to kind of spread your shroud out, right? It's also a lot easier, right? And you don't have to build these things this close either. They actually have quite a big range. The downside of building out here is things build a little bit slower, but that's okay. If you're just trying to expand your shroud, right? The shroud is what gives you a lot of your ability to curse stuff, like there's static defense, like there's just, you know, before we were doing this with, like, you know, putting effigies down all the time, and it was just, you know, I really do like the changes they made in terms of the shroud and the way it works now. Like, it feels much more satisfying and much more enjoyable to use. And alright, perfect. So what I'm going to do now is make these guys, and the way the Spriggans work now is you get 2 of them, right? So, you know, before you used to just get 1, but now you get 2. And I know they don't look like much now, and they're not as strong, like they lost a little bit of damage and, you know, all that stuff, right? They don't look like, you know, I'm going to say powerful. They are. They're just really good. But I'm going to show you, like, and you can tell me what they feel like. And again, with the map stuff, like, the maps are going to change, right? But, alright, so, like, what do I want to do with these units now? And this is what was not really possible. I know they have a little bit of a turn, but watch, you know, okay, oh, I want to kill this stuff, right? So I will drop some shroud, but I want them to stack up, right? Really, really easy. In fact, you can keep them stacked up if you want. Like, it's not a great idea here, but yeah. Okay? And they will attack before they spread out, right? So you can do some pretty cool stuff. Right? Now these units are pretty tanky, but, and this is not like what you would use them for, but imagine taking these things to workers, right? Like, I can get these to do whatever I want, right? You can split them up, you know, I can take half and let's just grab these guys. I'm going to make them in their own control group, right? So, hey, look, there we go. I can use 3. Right? You can have you know, one going over there, one going over there. Let's go get some multitask going on, right? They just feel really good. And if I group them all back up, which I will do here, everything that you've ever known about basically any kind of micro from, like, this type of unit is fully available, right? So if I want them to stack, like, this is actually really easy. So right now I'm using the option for smart attack or whatever on the right mouse button, so when I hold, like, they will just kind of, like, it keeps clicking for me basically, but there's nothing stopping me from just clicking faster, right? And this is actually an attack command when I'm just right click, right? Which I think is useful, right? So the way it works is when I release right click is when the attack goes through, by the way, if you weren't familiar. So, right? So we can get in here on him and go for it, right? Like, you don't really want to group them up like this, but you can, right? And again, all the attacks will go off, so you can just bundle them up like that. It looks a little weird, but, you know, if I want them spread out, I can keep them spread out. If I want them grouped up to avoid stuff, I can group them up. You know, if I want to fly over here, no problem. Go over here, right? And again, all the magic box works, right? So these I can fly them here, right? keep them in the box, keep them in the box. I want to break the box, you just click within the group. So if you're not familiar with how to do that, you just click over here. If you're, as long as I'm clicking kind of outside of their group, right, there's a little box around them, they will fly like that, but if I want them to group up, I click inside the box, right? And you know, it's pretty interesting. Like, I don't know if you've ever used Patrol, but yeah, you can patrol and do stuff like that. All right, but they're really, really fun. Go have a blast with them. I really enjoyed them. They're my kind of standout unit. Obviously, like, you know, there's a Flayed Dragon, which is pretty cool, but we're not going to show that here. So anyway, have a good one, guys, and I will see you with the next one.